The moment I saw him, I almost dropped the damn clipboard. Because apparently, the universe thought it'd be hilarious to make me plan my ex-boyfriend's wedding and introduce me to his very pregnant brother. Elliot Hayes. That's his name. The man who walked into my client meeting with a shy smile, soft hazel eyes, and a baby bump that shouldn't have made my heart twist the way it did. I told myself it was just shock. That I wasn't staring at his belly like an idiot because something inside mesomething buried since I lost Luke was waking up again. But the longer I stood there, the more I realized it wasn't just the baby that caught my breath. It was him. Mr. Carter, right? Elliot asked, his voice calm but curious. You're the wedding planner? I swallowed, nodded. Yeah. Call me Noah. He smiled, and just like that, the world shrank into the space between us. Luke Hayes, me ex, the man I thought I'd marry someday, was getting married next month. To someone else. And I, apparently, was the idiot who said yes when his fiancé's sister asked me to plan the wedding because you're the best in the business, Noah. Luke trusts you. Trust, right? What she didn't mention was that Luke's younger brother, Elliot, would be living in the same house where I'd be coordinating everything. And now, here we were, him, the fool who still had half a heart left for a ghost, and him, the quiet brother carrying new life and an air of fragile peace. The first few days were easy to pretend. Professional smiles, brief greetings, long silences filled with the sounds of me clicking through floral arrangements while Elliot sat nearby reading, occasionally humming under his breath. But I noticed things. The way he winced when standing up. How his hand always drifted protectively to his stomach, even mid-laugh. And how he avoided mentioning Luke at all costs, as if the name itself was a fragile glass that could shatter the air between us. I told myself not to care. And then one night, I heard him cry. It was late past midnight. I was reorganizing the seating chart again, when I heard soft, muffled sounds from down the hall. I froze. Then, quietly, I followed the sound to Elliot's door. Elliot, I whispered. No answer. Just another quiet sob. My hand hesitated on the doorknob, my heart pounding too fast for reasons that had nothing to do with empathy and everything to do with him. Finally, I knocked gently. Hey, it's Noah. Are you okay? The sound stopped. Then a pause. Then, it's fine. Sorry. I didn't mean to. Before he could finish, I opened the door. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, eyes red, hands trembling on the swell of his stomach. A few tissues lay scattered like fallen petals. I'm sorry, he murmured again, looking away. The hormones. They just don't apologize. I crossed the room and sat beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating off his skin. He looked at me, surprised, maybe scared of being pitied. But I didn't pity him. I saw someone strong, someone breaking quietly, alone. We sat like that for a long moment. The house was silent except for the faint tick of the clock and the rhythm of his uneven breathing. Do you miss him? I finally asked. He blinked, startled. Luke. Yeah. Elliot laughed softly, the sound fragile and wet with unshed tears. Sometimes, but not the way you think. He looked down at his hands. He was my brother, Noah. But he was complicated. He left a lot of damage behind. Something twisted in my chest. You don't have to talk about it. I want to, he said quietly, because you're the first person who looks at me and doesn't just see this. He gestured to his belly. Or his brother. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. I just stayed there, letting silence do what words couldn't. Over the next week, the air between us shifted. We didn't talk much about Luke anymore. Instead, we talked about music, about favorite foods, about the absurdity of pregnancy cravings. Elliot had a thing for lemon cake. So one morning, I baked one for him. He cried again, happy tears this time. I didn't think anyone would remember, he whispered. Luke used to. He stopped, swallowed hard. Never mind. I smiled. Then consider it a new memory. And maybe it was. Because after that, I started noticing how his laughter came easier, how he lingered near me longer than necessary. But every time his hand brushed mine, something inside me screamed danger, because I was still the man planning his brother's wedding. The real breaking point came 2 weeks before the wedding. We were setting up decorations outside, the sunlight spilling over everything in warm gold. Elliot was standing near the gazebo, holding a basket of flowers, when he suddenly swayed. "Elliot!" I ran forward, catching him just as his knees buckled. His breath came in shallow gasps, his face pale. "It's fine, just—" "No, it's not fine," I shouted. "You need to sit down." He tried to protest, but I lifted him, hands trembling, heart racing, and carried him to the bench nearby. For a second, he looked stunned, almost embarrassed. Then he smiled faintly. "You're stronger than you look." "Yeah, well, you scared the hell out of me," I muttered. His fingers found mine, warm and uncertain. "Sorry. I didn't mean to make you worry." Too late. I already did. That night I couldn't sleep, because every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, his soft smile, the way he said my name, the quiet strength in his voice. I told myself it was wrong, that this was just projection, loneliness, guilt. But deep down I knew. I was falling for him. The next morning I tried to act normal. Tried to focus on floral orders, on the color palettes, on the goddamn seating chart that still didn't make sense. But when Elliot walked into the kitchen, hair messy, wearing Luke's old sweatshirt that draped over his belly like a memory, I lost it. "Why are you wearing that?" I asked, harsher than I meant to. He blinked. "What?" "That shirt, it's his." Elliot's face fell. "It's just comfortable." "I didn't mean—" "Forget it," I said quickly, turning away. Forget it." The silence that followed hurt more than anything. He left the room quietly, and for the first time in years, I realized I wasn't angry at Luke anymore. I was angry at myself for still letting him haunt me when someone real, someone alive, was right in front of me. That night, I stood outside Elliot's door again, like the first time. He opened it before I could knock. "I was hoping you'd come," he whispered. I stepped inside, and in the quiet glow of the bedside lamp, I saw something raw in his eyes: fear, longing, and a question neither of us dared to ask out loud. "You're not a replacement," I said finally. "You know that, right?" Elliot's breath hitched. "Then what am I?" I took a step closer. "Someone I care about. Maybe too much." He stared at me, his lower lip trembling. "Noah." I closed the distance. Not to kiss him, just to be near enough to feel his breath against mine, to let him know I meant it. "Then care about me," he whispered. And for the first time since Luke left, I did. The next morning, everything felt heavy. The air, my chest, the silence between us. I didn't sleep at all after last night. Elliot's words kept replaying in my head, "Then care about me." Simple, soft, dangerous. I tried to bury myself in work. I arrived early at the Hayes estate, focused on the ceremony outline, the flower schedule, the delivery lists. But even then, every sound, footsteps, doors creaking, made me flinch, wondering if it was him. When Elliot finally appeared, wearing an oversized hoodie and holding a cup of tea, I almost forgot how to breathe. "Morning," he said gently, as if testing the air between us. "Hey," I replied, forcing casual. "You sleep okay?" "Better than you did," he said with a faint smile. I blinked. "How do you know that?" He shrugged, setting the tea down. "You left your light on all night." I saw it from the hallway. That quiet concern, the way he noticed even when I tried to disappear, somehow broke something open inside me. We spent the day avoiding the topic. The house buzzed with energy as the wedding drew closer. Florists came and went, caterers tested the kitchen, and Luke's fiancée, Emily, fluttered around like a dream in white silk. She was kind. Too kind. She didn't deserve to be caught in the storm of my history with Luke. Every time she looked at me with that warm smile, guilt crawled up my spine. At one point, she caught me staring out at the garden and said, "You've done such an incredible job, Noah. Luke said you were the best. He still talks about you, you know?" "Yeah," I muttered, throat tight. "I bet he does." I didn't see Elliot until late afternoon, when everyone else had gone. He was in the backyard, tending to the rows of white lilies. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. You like lilies? I asked, walking over. He looked up, surprised but pleased. They were my mom's favorite. She planted them before she died. I hesitated. I didn't know. She passed when Luke was 19. I was 15. He brushed soil off his hands. That's when Luke started to change. He became colder, harder. Dad wasn't around much, and I think he just didn't know how to love without hurting first. His voice cracked. I wanted to reach for him but stopped myself. He continued, quieter. When I got pregnant, everyone thought I was a disgrace. Luke tried to defend me once, but even that turned into a fight. He said I was ruining the family name, that no one would believe a man like me could. He stopped. I didn't push. I just waited. Finally, he whispered. The father left. He said he wasn't ready. So I decided to raise this baby alone. Something inside me ached. You're not alone anymore. Elliot looked up at me, startled. What? I met his gaze. I mean it. You shouldn't have to do this by yourself. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the space between us electric, fragile, alive. Then he smiled, small but real. You're too good, Noah. Maybe I'm just tired of pretending I don't care, I said. That night, I stayed late again. Emily wanted last-minute adjustments to the centerpieces, and I needed to confirm the cake order. But my hands kept shaking as I typed, my thoughts spiraling back to Elliot's story. When I finally packed up and walked toward my car, I noticed him sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket. The moonlight made his skin glow silver. You shouldn't be out in the cold, I said. I like the quiet, he murmured. It's peaceful. The baby likes it too. I sat beside him, the night air cool and still. Do you ever think about starting over? I asked suddenly. He smiled faintly. Every day. Me too, I admitted. But it feels impossible sometimes. Like I'm trapped in the shadow of who I used to love. Elliot turned to look at me. Luke. Yeah. I swallowed. He broke me in ways I didn't even realize. And now I'm helping him promise forever to someone else. How messed up is that? Maybe it's not messed up, Elliot said softly. Maybe it's closure disguised as punishment. That line hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Elliot, I said after a moment. When I look at you, he shook his head. Don't, please. My heart stuttered. Why not? Because you're saying it out of guilt or confusion, or because you think I need saving. And I don't. I stared at him, anger flaring, not at him, but at the truth in his words. That's not what this is. Then what is it? He whispered, eyes glistening. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Instead, I reached out, gently brushed his cheek. Maybe I'll figure it out if you let me try. He didn't pull away. He leaned into my hand, eyes fluttering closed. Then try, he breathed. The next few days blurred together. We grew closer in the quietest ways, small touches. Late-night talks. Laughter that felt like sunlight after too long in the dark. One evening, as I was rearranging the seating cards, Elliot came into the room with a plate of cookies. Peace offering, he said with a grin. For what? For making you cry that night. I laughed, though my throat felt tight. You didn't make me cry. Your eyes said otherwise. He handed me a cookie. Our fingers brushed warm, lingering. The tension between us pulsed, delicate as a heartbeat. 2 nights later, Luke came home early from a business trip. The moment I heard his voice echo through the hallway, my stomach twisted. Noah, he called. I froze. Elliot was sitting beside me on the couch, reading a baby name book. He looked up, startled. Luke stepped into the room. The sight of him after months felt like being punched in the chest. He was still gorgeous, tall, confident. The same sharp jawline and stormy eyes that once undid me. Didn't expect to see you here, he said, tone cool. Work, I replied flatly. Your fiancé wanted updates. He nodded, then looked at Elliot. And you? Should you even be up this late? Elliot tensed. I'm fine, Luke. Fine. Luke scoffed. You look pale as hell. Go rest. I'll handle things. Something in me snapped. You don't get to talk to him like that. Luke turned, eyes narrowing. Excuse me? You heard me. He's not your responsibility. He's my brother, Luke hissed. I've taken care of him my entire life. Elliot's voice trembled. You've controlled me, not cared for me. Silence. Heavy and sharp. Luke's face hardened. So this is what it's come to? You defending him now? He jabbed a finger toward me. Don't tell me you're enough. Elliot's voice cracked, louder than I'd ever heard it. We both froze. I'm tired of being the fragile one you both protect or blame. I can speak for myself. And right now, I don't want either of you fighting because of me. He turned away, hand instinctively resting on his belly. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Luke muttered something under his breath and stormed out. The door slammed. Elliot crumpled slightly, breathing hard. I moved toward him, but he lifted a hand. Don't. I just need a minute. I hesitated, then sat beside him anyway. He's always like that, Elliot whispered finally. Everything's about control. Maybe that's why you two didn't work. Maybe, I said. But it doesn't make this easier. Elliot turned to me, eyes soft. No. But maybe it makes it real. The next morning, Luke avoided both of us. Emily was busy with wedding preparations, oblivious to the emotional wreckage beneath the surface. I should have been relieved. But all I could think about was Elliot, how brave he'd been, how much it must have hurt to finally stand up to Luke. By the afternoon, he was gone. I found his note on the kitchen table. Noah, I need space. I'm sorry. I'll be back before the wedding. Don't look for me. My heart stopped. I grabbed my jacket, ignoring the shaking in my hands. I didn't know where he was, but I knew one thing: I wasn't losing him too. I found him an hour later, at the old dock by the lake behind the house. The wind whipped through his hair. His reflection rippled across the dark water. Elliot, I called softly. He didn't turn. I just needed to breathe, he said finally. Everything's too loud in that house. I walked closer. You scared me. He smiled faintly. Seems like I do that a lot. Yeah, you do. We stood there in silence for a moment. The lake shimmered with fading light, the scent of pine thick in the air. Then I said what I'd been afraid to say for days. I don't know where this is going, or what it means, but I want you in my life, Elliot. Not because of guilt or the past. Because you make me feel like I can breathe again. His eyes met mine, wide and vulnerable. Noah, don't run from me, please. Tears glimmered in his lashes. I'm not running. I'm protecting myself. And you? From what? From Luke. From the world. From everything that could destroy what we're building. I took his hand. Then let me protect it with you. He looked at me for a long moment, the wind brushing strands of hair across his face. And then slowly, carefully leaned in. Our foreheads touched, breath mingling in the cold air. No kiss. No grand declaration. Just two people choosing to stay. For now, that was enough. The wedding was 3 days away. 3 days until I watched the man I once loved promise forever to someone else. 3 days until I either walked away from this madness or let myself fall for his brother completely. Elliot hadn't come back to the house yet. After that night by the lake, he stayed with a friend in town. He texted once, I just need space. Don't worry. But of course I worried. The house felt wrong without him. The laughter was gone, replaced by the sterile hum of wedding preparation and Luke's tense, clipped instructions. He'd noticed Elliot's absence too, though he didn't ask. Maybe he already knew I was the reason. The morning of the rehearsal, I drove out to the lake again. The mist was low, curling over the water like breath. And there he was, Elliot, sitting on the dock, wrapped in the same gray sweater, staring into nothing. He turned when he heard my footsteps. His smile was small but real. I figured you'd find me. I always do, I said quietly. It's kind of my job, remember? Finding lost things? He asked. Trying to make chaos look beautiful, I corrected. Even when it's impossible. He looked down, one hand absently rubbing the curve of his stomach. You shouldn't be here, Noah. You have a wedding to plan. I'm not leaving without you, I said. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. Elliot's eyes glistened. Part of it? Or part of you? I froze. Both. That word hung between us like lightning in the distance. He sighed, voice trembling. You don't even know the whole story. Then tell me. He hesitated, then finally whispered, the baby's not mine. The world tilted. What? He nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the lake. I was a surrogate. For Luke and Emily. For a moment I couldn't speak. The air in my lungs turned to ice. I don't understand. Elliot's voice was calm, but his hands shook. They couldn't conceive naturally. Luke knew about my condition, about how I could carry. He begged me to do it for them. Said it would bring the family together again. I said yes because I wanted peace. Because I thought it would make him love me again. He laughed bitterly. But once I got pregnant, he treated me like property. Like a walking incubator. Tears burned my eyes. Elliot, when you came back, he continued. He panicked. He thought you'd ruin everything. He didn't want you to know. But he broke off, his voice cracking. I couldn't pretend anymore. Not when you looked at me like I was someone worth loving. I stepped forward, heart breaking open. You are worth loving. He met my eyes, tears glimmering. Even if the baby's his? I didn't hesitate, especially then. He let out a shaky laugh, then buried his face in his hands. God, Noah, I don't know what to do anymore. You don't have to, I said softly. We'll figure it out together. We stayed like that for a long time, him crying, me holding him, the world quiet around us. For once, I didn't think about Luke or Emily or the mess we'd made. I just thought about this two broken people trying to heal in each other's arms. When I finally pulled back, the sun had started to rise. Come back with me, I said. You don't have to hide. Elliot hesitated. Luke will lose it. Let him, I said. He's already lost enough. When we walked back into the house later that morning, everything exploded. Luke was in the foyer on a call. The moment he saw us, his face darkened. Where the hell have you been? He barked at Elliot. Elliot flinched but didn't look away. Out. Luke's gaze snapped to me. You did this, didn't you? Calm down, I said evenly. He needed time. Time. Luke's voice rose, sharp with panic. You think this is some kind of joke? You think I can just let my brother run around when he's carrying my... Stop. Elliot cut in. You don't own me, Luke. Luke froze. I agreed to do this for you, Elliot continued, voice trembling but strong. But that doesn't mean you get to control me. Not anymore. Elliot, no, he said louder now. You used me. You used Noah. You used everyone around you to build this perfect picture of a life you don't even deserve. Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, confusion written across her face. Luke, what's going on? Luke's mask cracked. Nothing. Go back upstairs. But Emily didn't move. Her gaze darted between us, and realization flickered in her eyes. It's true, isn't it? Everything I suspected. Luke's face drained of color. Emily, please, don't, she said, voice shaking. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it. She turned to Elliot, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he treated you like that. Elliot shook his head gently. You didn't deserve any of this. And then she looked at me. Neither did you, Noah. The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, Emily straightened, wiped her eyes, and said quietly, The wedding's off. Luke reached for her, desperate. Emily, she stepped back. Don't. You've done enough damage. Then she turned to me. Take care of him, okay? I nodded, my throat tight. I will. After she left, Luke sank onto the stairs, face in his hands. For the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked small. He didn't say a word as Elliot and I turned to leave. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of lilies, the ones his mother planted years ago. Elliot stopped at the edge of the garden, staring at them. Do you think people like him ever change? I thought for a moment. Maybe. But sometimes the only way they change is when we finally stop waiting for them to. He smiled sadly. You always know what to say. Not always, I said. But I know what I feel. He looked at me, eyes shimmering with quiet hope. And what's that? That I love you. The words hung there, raw and terrifying. Elliot's breath caught. Say it again. I love you. He stepped closer, tears sliding down his cheeks. You can't just say things like that when I'm hormonal and exhausted, you jerk. I laughed through my own tears. Guess I'm bad at timing. Terrible, he whispered. But perfect. And then he kissed me. It wasn't fireworks or thunder. It was soft, trembling, filled with all the things we'd been too scared to say. His hands slid up to my neck. Mine rested over his stomach, where new life waited quietly between us. When we finally broke apart, the sun was high, and the world felt new again. A few weeks later, the house was quieter. Luke had moved out of state, Emily had started over somewhere near Seattle, and the scandal had faded like smoke. Elliot and I stayed. We turned the once chaotic Hayes estate into something different, something gentle, ours. One afternoon, he stood in the garden, wearing loose overalls and laughing as he tried to fix the crooked wind chime. The sound of his laughter filled the air, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Careful, I called. You're not supposed to be climbing things. He rolled his eyes. I'm pregnant, not fragile. Same thing, I teased. He stuck his tongue out at me. Bossy. I grinned. That's what you love about me. He paused, one hand over his belly. Actually, this little one might love it too. Wait, what? I blinked. You mean? He smiled, glowing. Doctor says it's not Luke's. The embryo didn't take. The baby's mine. My DNA. For a second, the world stopped. You're serious? I whispered. He nodded, eyes shining. Completely. I thought I was carrying a piece of Luke's life. Turns out, it's mine. I took his face in my hands, my chest so full it hurt. Then this baby's a miracle. No, he said softly, leaning into my touch. We are. The months passed slowly, beautifully. The lilies bloomed again. The air grew warmer. And when the baby finally came, a tiny, perfect little boy with Elliot's hazel eyes and my ridiculous curls, the world felt right. We named him Chance. Because that's what this all was, a second chance at life, at love, at forgiveness. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wake to find Elliot watching the baby sleep. The soft light from the crib painted his face in gold. Do you ever think we deserved this? He whispered once. I brushed his hair back and kissed his forehead. I don't think we earned it. I think we survived for it. He smiled, eyes glistening. That's enough. I looked at him, this man who'd rebuilt me without even trying, and realized something simple but absolute. Love doesn't arrive in perfect form. It shows up messy, broken, inconvenient. But when it's real, it stays. And ours stayed. On the day the lilies bloomed again, Elliot took my hand as we stood by the lake, the same place we'd first told each other the truth. Do you ever miss him? He asked. I shook my head. No. I think he was just the storm that had to pass before the sky cleared. Elliot smiled. And now, I said, pulling him closer. It's just us. And the future. The baby cooed in his arms, tiny fingers curling around mine. The lake shimmered with sunlight. The wind carried laughter through the garden. And for the first time, the word forever didn't sound like a promise I couldn't keep. It sounded like home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.